Hi, welcome back. I'm Linda. I finished up a pretty challenging seascape this morning. Challenging meaning I did quite a few changes during the course of this painting, but I think it turned out pretty well. I've got a pretty fierce looking sky here, lots of colors. I did start out with acrylics, by the way. Got my oranges and yellows in and a few blues, little yellows in the water so I didn't, wouldn't get green. So I did all that first, and then I just proceeded to do step by step down. So I got my sky in, my mountains in the background. I've got some really cool rock works here with a palette knife. Nice, some waves coming in, kind of strong. Settles out as it gets to the shoreline. I think you're really going to enjoy painting this one with me. So get your paints out, get ready, so let's get started. And here are the acrylics that I started out with. White, black, phthalo blue, crimson, cad yellow, and red. So now I'm going into cad yellow with a touch of white. And I'm just going to go a little bit where the sun is going to be. A little right around the halfway mark, maybe a little bit above. You'll see how I started out with this, and I ended up changing basically most of it. So you'll see my trials and my mistakes and how I fixed them, and it's going to be kind of a lesson here. So if you don't want to paint along, that's fine. Just take notes, and you'll see how I can transform this big old mistake into a beautiful painting. So I've gone across the horizon line with the sunlight there, and I'm going to put little here and there areas of sunlight where the sun is going to peek through those clouds. I'm going to have a pretty dramatic sky in the end. So, and then I'm going into the water where the reflection's going to hit there. But like I said, I'm going to be changing a lot of this. So just sit back and take note and see how awful this is in the beginning, and you'll see why I changed it. But I'm putting a dark lavender up into the sky. I put some phthalo blue in parts of the sky and the water. Of course, that's all going to change. But I just wanted you to see how I fixed it because I was really disappointed there. I just didn't like what I was seeing. So anyway, I went into a little bit of orange and red, and I'm just putting some uh, color amongst into the yellows, going up, putting oranges up here and there, because it's going to be a kind of a stormy looking sky. In fact, the name of it is After the Storm, so I'm making I wanted a nice stormy looking sky. See, I'm just kind of hesitant. I don't know exactly where. I'm just kind of making this up as I go. But now here I'm going into a little orange, and I do save this part of the painting. It's a little bit of orange and white, and I'm just going in there. Now these are acrylics that I'm using, so. And I put that old what you call sand hill down on bottom. That's all gonna go away. Yeah. But the sunlight area pretty much is gonna stay the same. Now the oils I used was liquid clear, titanium white, crimson, Van Dyke brown, orange, burnt sienna, and red. So now I let all this acrylic dry, totally dry, and I'm going over the whole thing with liquid clear. Just a nice thin light coat. And I'm taking a shop towel, gonna go over it, take all the excess oil off. Just wipe it off. Okay, so now I'm with the oils now, and I'm just taking orange. I'm going right over, trying to lighten up some of those really dark areas. Orange and yellow. Just just going along, making up where I think clouds should be, l- lightening it up. So it's quite orangey. I mean, I wanted orange, but because I've got a lot of the sunset colors, sunrise colors, so I wanted it a nice, pretty orange and yellow, and a little darker at the top. So I'm just doing little circular motions and just spreading that oil around, making it billowy looking, cloud-like looking, and just softening it up. And I'm not afraid to go into the blue because I'm putting some yellow in there, and that was the whole idea. I wanted some dark colors in there, but I didn't want the green to show up. So I'm able to do that when I lay down acrylic first. Okay, so now I've lightened everything up, and you see that area I'm working on right now. Can't quite get rid of that blue area. So I took right there. I took some odorless thinner, went over that area, took it off, let it dry, and then I put some white gesso on top and let that dry totally. Same with that deal on the bottom there with the sand hill. Let the gesso dry, really, really good. And then I put liquid clear right over that spot because I just didn't want that dark blue in there. I wanted to change my sky. Okay, and then I took a shop towel, took the excess oil. Now I'm going into oil now. It's white, titanium white, and I'm creating right above the, looks like above, a little bit above the halfway mark there on the canvas. Just going to go straight across and bring down some of that white. And going into the yellows, and I'm going to start making the sky how I think it should really look. Because I wanted a nice yellow and orangey sky in there. Keeping some of the dark on top. I'm going into a little bit, I'm just a little bit of orange in there. So it's kind of a darker to medium orangey yellow. But I wanted a little bit of a difference there, color. Because I'm putting in, excuse me, a little bit of a mountain in the distance. That darker area is clouds, and you'll see once I get the second mountain in. But I've got a real light gray, very light gray, and I'm shaping the mountain and going into that other area where it's actually clouds, it's darker cloud there. But I'm going to fill that area in with a little lighter gray. And that's with white and a touch of black, maybe a touch of blue too, because excuse me, it's so far in the distance that gonna be pretty foggy looking. So I wanted it a really light, very light gray. And I'm still gonna keep my sunlight right in that one area, but I kind of wanted to start over there and put some white in there and put that sunlight in. And I'm going in and creating another little hill or mountain, and it's going to go right underneath where that sun is. It's going to go right underneath that. It's going to be a very, very light gray. So I'm going off to the left there. I'm going to create another mountain. Same color, it's kind of a darker gray, medium. Just shaping the top of that mountain in the background. So I might take a break and put some shop towel over and take off some of the excess. I usually put those on there when I take a little break. Then I come back and it's good. So on my finger, I've got a little white and I'm going to shape that sunlight, that sun that's coming up. And I'll take my shop towel, take a little bit of the excess off. And you can pull down some of those yellows into that back mountain there. You see some of those light rays. So as you can see, I didn't like the water, so I took paper towel and dipped it into odorless mineral spirits and wiped the water off down to the shoreline. Let it dry, then I brushed a thin coat of white gesso and let that dry. And then I proceeded again with acrylics. Cad yellow, white, and a little bit of orange because I want that acrylic color in the water so my blues don't turn into greens. So I'm bringing that yellow right down, all the way down. The nice thing about acrylics, once it's dry, a lot of the paint colors won't even touch it. I mean, you can go over it with blues and whatever, and it's just still is nice and yellow. So I'm going to bring that color right down into that shoreline, adding a little bit of red, but mostly orangey color. Probably a lot of that won't show anyway. But anyway, I let the acrylic dry really good. I'm putting some liquid clear right over the top of that. Not going above, I'm just going to go right underneath. There you go. And I'm taking a shop towel, taking off the excess oil. If you have too much, your paint tends to run, and you don't want that because you just need a thin coat. So I'm going into white. I got a fan brush there, and I'm going to create kind of a foggy area underneath those mountains just a little bit. Little circular motions. And the more I took a dry brush there and just buffing that out down there, and it just creates a nice misty, foggy look. Really pushes back those mountains. It looks like they're far in the distance. Okay, now I'm going into a blue-gray, dark blue, and I'm going to create a water line. And just above that halfway mark, you may need to have a ruler and mark so you have a nice even um, straight line across. But it's just below. And I'm going to go right across that yellow. But it's a dark, almost got a little crimson in that. It's just a beautiful dark blue with a lavender tinge to it. It's just very dark. So I'm bringing in some more I've got a flat brush, got a fair amount on that brush, and I'm leaving a little bit of that yellow showing through. See, just below there, how I leave a little bit of yellow, and that's the way I'm gonna uh, do my water. I'm gonna go straight across with this dark, dark blue, leaving just a tiny bit of that yellow showing. And those reflections will look so neat after we get done here. Just leaving, and you can do little slight U-y shapes with your water. You get a little movement, and just keep going all the way. It's gonna look kind of weird because there's a lot of work to do on this yet, but it's just a start. At least you've got those real pretty sun reflections in the water, and they won't be green. So I'm just kind of working my way down, and each time I pretty much load that brush again. Little U's, leaving some of those yellow reflections in there. And when I get to pretty soon I'm going to start angling a little bit. You'll see how I angle that. It's not going to be totally straight across. Leaving a lot of that yellow showing. There, you'll see the angle, kind of angling down toward the side of the shoreline there. So I'll be adding some nice rocks and boulders in there so that, but at least I've got some of that blue base down there so I can blend that water as I need it around my rocks and boulders. So it looks kind of funny, but okay, so now I'm taking a real small fan brush. I've got titanium white on there, and I'm just chipping some of those high point areas, and I'm making little waves in the background, just very small little waves. I put a little gray back there because I want it to look like it's far away. But I do have some water lines. I'm using my palette knife to create some more waves in the far in the distance. Now with the fan brush, as I'm coming closer, my waves, splashes are getting a little bit bigger. I'm just creating some nice movement in that water. And my favorite little toy, it's called a precision tip applicator. It's made by Freehand, and I've got um, titanium white with a little bit of liquid white in it. I shake it up, and it works really nice for putting on waves. Now I scraped off a little area right there. I'm going to add a big old kind of a rock there that's jutting up above the water. And I've got Van Dyke brown, touch of black. So I'm just shaping a rock that's in the water, adding a few little yellow and orangey highlights on just on the top part because the sun is hitting that area. So you want to make sure that it's a lighter orangey yellow. And the waves are coming up behind that, so I'm putting a little bit of wave action by that rock. And maybe bring some water down using my fan brush, trickle some water off that rock. And with a fan brush, I'm going underneath the rock and just creating a little bit of a wave line there, water line. I'm adding some darker areas with the dark phthalo blue with a touch of crimson, making it really dark just to highlight the top of those waves. It'll really bring the waves out. So now I'm going into Van Dyke Brown, and I'm going to put a nice rock right off center. It's going to meet up with that one that's in the water. Just pulling down some of that dark color. Just kind of gives it interest, you know? Pulling down the brown, adding a little black, maybe a touch of burnt sienna. And you can use a brush too. Sometimes I like using my palette knife. I get some nice little shapes with that. Putting a little water line underneath that. Okay, going into Van Dyke Brown, touch of black, another dark color, and I'm going to put another rock formation on the left side. Going to bring that down into the front there, not all the way, but just bring that down. And there's another formation right alongside of it. So the front one is going to be a little bit lighter, and then the one in the back will be just a little bit darker. But that's the shady side. You know, that's the part that the sun doesn't hit. So you want to make sure you have your shades right. Otherwise, if you have a flat color, it just doesn't have any depth. You know, you want to make sure it's got some depth to that. There, I'm adding, I even put a little bit of a light color there, and then I blend in the dark alongside, and that kind of helps separate. And you can kind of see there's a second piece to that rock formation. Going into the yellow and a little bit of white. I'm going to tip just the top of that because for sunlight's hitting there. And I will say I added a little bit of liquid white to whenever I do any highlighting, I like to add a little bit of liquid white. But that makes it flow really good. So now I'm going into phthalo and a little bit of alizarin and even a little bit of brown because it's a dark area there in front. Partially shoreline with the sandy coming through, but there's a lot of water rushing in there. So I wanted to make sure the areas are shaded right. I'm going to bring in a little rock curve along side of that rock on the right there. You'll see, but I'm just smoothing that area out, adding a little bit of crimson and just smoothing that out. And I'm putting in some phthalo blue in there, right along the side there. Taking my palette knife with some white on it. Going to create some water lines that go around that rock formation as the water's coming in around. Doesn't take much on the paint or the palette knife. It's just a nice little roll. You can always touch it up if it isn't shaped just the way you like it. You can always take your finger and touch it up and put another little mass in the center. Now you see how I added some rocks on the right there. It curves around. Same color with the Van Dyke brown and black. Put some water motion around that with the palette knife.
And I'm adding some yellow highlights way in the distance. Got a little script liner there, just bringing out some of that yellow back there. And maybe in the where you see the yellow, just adding a little touch here and there. And I put some highlights on the center rock and some smaller little rocks in the water and tip those with a little bit of yellow also. So I wiped off a little spot in the back, and I'm going to add another big rock formation back there. I just felt it needed something. So I'm putting some darker blues in the front. I've got a small brush. I'm just etching where I want this big one to go. It's going to go not all the way down, but it's going to be in the distance, but big enough that it'll look like it's uh, right behind these rocks. So I've got a palette knife with the dark brown, a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of black. I'm just pulling some of that down, and you can shape it as you go. Kind of hard sometimes to figure out the angles, but short end, long end, you can use either side of that palette knife. And then cut across so you got the base. So it's not quite up to the other rocks, but you can see it's in the distance, but clear enough to see some of the detail. Close enough, I should say. So I'm just brushing some of that dark brown in there, shaping, pulling down, putting some uh, dark brown, a little bit of black, shaping the angles of the rocks, the way they're coming down. Gonna try and add some highlights in there. I put a little bit of burnt sienna, maybe a little touch of red with that too, and just pull that down in there. There's going to be another mass in front of that. So got the one there in the back, and there's another one just in front of it. So I'm going to have work on these distant ones first, getting the rocks the way I want them to look. Get a little burnt sienna on there. But that area there, the tops should uh, are exposed to the sunlight. So you want to make sure they're highlighted. Just a little bitty roll. There, see how nice that looks? The sun is hitting there and it's showing all of its beautiful colors on the rocks. So now I'm going into a little bit of cad yellow and I'm going to really highlight the tops of those rocks. And if you think you have too much, you can always go back and add a little brown in there and straighten those out. But you want to have the tops of those glisten, with some nice yellow highlights. So now I've got a little bit of oh, I think that is a little bit of yellow and brown. And just pulling that down. Now I see you can see that the other side of that mountain. And you can put your darker areas in there. Go back and fix your highlights. Putting some water line right underneath that big rock formation, some waves coming in, maybe a little water runoff on this big rock in the center. So I almost see a finished painting here. I really, really love doing this one. And I hope you did too. So until next time, happy painting and God bless.